the best out of anybody, but they don't think, even though Charles Leclerc was set to complete a lap and make quickest in free practice 3, he didn't manage it. They don't think they're going to be beaten by, don't think they're going to be able to beat this man, George Russell, to pole position. We will see. Mercedes are confident. Lewis Hamilton led free practice 1 and free practice 2 for the first time since 2021. But he was only 6th in free practice 3, didn't manage to get a lap time together. But there is a little bit of confidence, at least on one lap, maybe not on a race pace here at Mercedes. We've already told you about the 2 chunks taken away on the Red Bull rear wing. It's transformed their car from what it was in free practice 1 and 2, but maybe it's not yet a Mercedes beater. A Mercedes beater, Simon! Who would have thought we'd be talking about Mercedes, such a dreadful car 2 weeks ago at the last race in Brazil, challenging for pole position in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, but that kind of sums up the season, doesn't it? You don't know what you're going to get from one week to the next.
Well, that was pretty evident when Lewis talked about his day being P1 in both sessions. He was really subdued and generally very skeptical. And I think that's just sort of been the story for maybe even the last 2 years. But definitely this past year, just very, very confused how to get the car to be where they want it to be more often and make progress with it. It's like they just don't quite have the grasp, or at least it's been said for sure by George that the window is very small. So we've seen a lot of speed from them at times, but their ability to be able to be consistent with that and keep that throughout the whole weekend has really been a struggle. Temperature overall, just getting temperature hot outside, seems to be something that's really been a penalty for them. So maybe this weekend here in Vegas, since it's so cold, will be in their favor.
Well, Max just said, we understand to our Sky colleague Mara there, that he doesn't feel like he can get pole position. In fact, Dr. Marco this weekend said they weren't expecting anything really this weekend because of the problems they're having with their rear wing. Looks like they might have addressed it, but perhaps, you know, out and out pace-wise, not for today.
He only got 1 lap in practice on new tyres.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be competitive, and I was amazed how quickly he went actually on that 1 lap. So he's going to be there. He's going to be there and thereabouts. For me, it's Mercedes. It's Mercedes,
Yeah.
and I think you're going to see quite big gaps between teammates because it is about the driver getting that lap in.
Ooh, I'm wearing my red Ferrari today, but I think it's really going to come down to timing. And not only just the timing, like getting it right for the driver to be out there at the right point in time, but it's going to be a lot on the team to be able to put them in the right spot, know their gaps, and be able to make sure that they are able to hit that lap right at the end and that they're not caught up.
Difficult to orchestrate the toe, but it will work round here because we've got those long straights. George Russell, quickest in the 3rd practice session. His teammate in the opening 2 practice sessions. Certainly, on the evidence so far, Mercedes look good. Over the last few weeks, they've tailed off as weekends have gone on. Will that happen this weekend? We're about to find out. Qualifying is next.
So if you're ready, let's go and let it rip on the strip, shall we? 22 rounds have arrived in Formula One in 2024. We've got 3 more races to go, and this is the Las Vegas qualifying, and this is going to be something a little bit special. 12 million light bulbs, 15,000 miles of neon tubing, and a few Formula One cars to make it look absolutely spectacular. Around the second longest track on the Formula One calendar at 3.85 miles long. 17 corners, 11 to the left and 6 to the right. And McLaren and Ferrari dominating pole positions in the last 9 races. But they're up against it this evening with Mercedes finding form so far in the 3 practice sessions. George Russell, fastest in FP3, Lewis Hamilton fastest in FP1 and FP2. Who's going to get pole tonight? It's all up for grabs on a track that has been so slippy, and these tyres are struggling. The C5 is the softest in the Pirelli range. If you don't get it up to temperature, you're going to be sliding everywhere. The C4 and the C3, we'll see those in the race tomorrow. Martin Brundle alongside me in the commentary box. It's been dancing on ice, Bambi style so far for the drivers. Who's got the bottle to go and take pole here in Vegas tonight?
It's very cool out there, just 12 degrees track temperature and air temperature too. It's all settling down. It's like being on a wet track on dry tyres. That's how much grip they have. But we don't want to see the cars looking like they're on rails. The drivers do. That's what they want to feel. They want supreme confidence. They don't want to have to fight it. They don't want to look silly with slides and mistakes and locking up their front wheels, but they're going to have to be really sensitive on the controls, on the brake, and the way they drive the track, but attack at the same time, get their brakes and their tyres absolutely right before they set about, as you say, the second longest track on the calendar.
So is it 1 preparation lap? Is it 2 preparation laps? Do you fill the car up to do multiple laps on a track where degradation is low and it's just all about thermal temperature in those tyres and brakes?
I mean, it's highly unusual. We do see temperatures like this sort of in winter testing, which you sort of tolerate and just, but then it's not so critical. You're not being timed every sector, every lap, and having a grid set by it. But yeah, it's what it is. It's the same for everybody. And they know it's low grip. So set your car up and drive it like it's a low grip circuit.
Now, when you were last with us on the track, we had a red flag. Lance Stroll lost power completely, had to stop by the side of the circuit. Is he going to be in qualifying, though? That's the big question at the moment. Ted Kravitz, got any answers?
Hello, Crofty. Hello, Martin. Hello, everybody from the pit lane. It's going to be very tight. The car is in several pieces. It was an energy recovery system failure. So these are hybrid cars, if you didn't know, watching us for the first time. These are fully hybrid cars. They harvest electricity. It's stored in a battery pack. That failed. It had to be replaced. And then that takes a long time. And the repairs are still going on to Lance Stroll's car. It's going to be really touch and go, Crofty, to see whether he can make it for this qualifying 1 session. But otherwise, yeah, all calm in the pit lane. I see a Mercedes with medium tyres on, everyone else on the softs. And, well, they call it Sin City, Crofty, but everyone's been pretty well behaved so far. No excursions into the wall.
Which I find absolutely incredible. And maybe that's because the drivers haven't been in that confidence zone yet, Martin, where they feel they can push as hard as they know they might need to in the next hour.
Yeah, this is it. This is when it matters. And go to there, ace the braking, ace the turning, get on the throttle as early as possible.
Countdown clock on the Sphere, $2.3 billion to construct, and it sets itself to 0 as the green light is on at the end of the pit lane, and one by one the cars all file out. Now, there's a lot of cars coming out very early on here, which does indicate to me, Martin, that we're going to see quite a lot of preparation laps before the push lap.
Well, it's certainly not to beat the rain as it was in Brazil last time out, because there's 0% precipitation expected today or tomorrow for that matter. Probably just as well as a wet track. It would be somewhat entertaining. It's I'm sure if you've done a bit of corporate karting, you know how slick and slippery some of those circuits can get. There's a little bit of that. And when I was out last night, trackside, talking to you, it was almost like a talcum powder, like a fine dust on the track. And remember, they open up quite a lot of this circuit through the day. It becomes a normal road again when the strip is open.
George Russell's on the medium tyre. Has come out on the medium, which I find a little surprising and certainly wasn't expecting. Maybe others will be on the mediums as well as we go through this Q1, but the man who was fastest on the soft tyres at the end of FP3 has decided medium is the way to go at the start. There's Fernando Alonso in an Aston Martin. Well, one is on the track. The team not expecting a brilliant weekend this weekend, and they've been struggling for pace a little so far.
Maybe Mercedes, who have been very fast in all 3 practice sessions, I feel they might be able to get through and save a set of soft. But the soft tyre is not a race tyre, is it? It's not a tyre you would look for unless there's a late safety car. It'll be medium and hard compound tyres that they'll be racing on.
They're obviously listening to us in the Mercedes hospitality area. Thank you to Adam, their press officer, who says we're just scrubbing a medium set. So scrubbing a medium set in preparation for the race tomorrow.
Yeah, that makes sense. They want to take the shine off, and that's not something you do that much on Pirelli tyres. Aston Martin do it all the time, don't they? Scrub a set of tyres, give it a sort of a little mini heat cycle, toughen it up a bit. But I think on such a slick racetrack, to get the shine, to get the mold shine off the top of the tyre is probably not a bad thing.
We're watching Pierre Gasly making his way round turn 6, and you can see Pierre Gasly illuminated on the sphere as he blasts his way past. And blasting his way around this track, he did very well last year, 4th on the grid.
Yeah. You know what? This is a brilliant time to be a Formula One driver. You know, you drive past the sphere and your picture comes up, and good luck to them. They've earned it. But this is... they're very lucky boys.
They certainly are. We have everyone out on the track, bar George Russell, who was pitted after scrubbing those medium tyres, Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg, Charles Leclerc and Lance Stroll. And just to remind you, this could be the venue where the title is decided this weekend. Lando Norris needs to get the gap between himself and Max Verstappen down to under 60 points by the end of the race to take it on to Qatar and maybe to Abu Dhabi for the final race. Max Verstappen will be world champion this weekend unless Lando Norris outscores him by 3 points.
Lando really has to win this race, doesn't he? Max then can't take the championship, but otherwise, as wherever Lando drops down the race order, Max just has to follow him home. But Max doesn't do a lot of following home, does he? It's
No.
not really his style.
This man likes to lead people home and did so brilliantly to win the DP World Tour Championship. Rory McIlroy watching on at the team he part owns this evening. It's a different kind of driving experience for him now that his golf season has finished. Well done to Rory. That was a brilliant performance in Dubai last week. Zhou Guanyu's put in a competitive lap, and he's just under 1/10 of a second ahead of his teammate Valtteri Bottas. The rest all going for those preparation laps. The time's nowhere near where they're going to be when they start to push. And the more they push and the more rubber that goes down, the more this track evolves and the timings are going to change quite dramatically towards the end of the session. So take us through this with Sergio Perez, Martin.
I will indeed, but I can't see him.
Can now.
There he is. Turn 3 becomes turn 4. Super 150 miles an hour corner. Quite a long straight then. It's a DRS, as you can see. Rear wing, the adjusted. You can see the divots in the rear wing there to try to dump some downforce and drag off the Red Bull. Perez, 2/3 of a second up on the fastest so far. Finished 3rd in the Grand Prix here last year. And the corners just keep coming fast at you. You can see how slick the surface is there, over a manhole cover as well. And carrying huge amounts of speed, a lot of confidence that the car will stick. They're long corners, they're not sort of cops fast at Silverstone, for example, but my goodness, they're very long, some of them. And Perez has dropped a little bit of time in there somewhere as he then heads down the long back straight. And it's a big stopping zone. You can see it's almost like a goat track where they follow each other, clean the lineup, car sparking as hitting the ground. Turn 14 follows 15 and 16 immediately. Back end of the car dancing. Now it's a little short straight into an incredibly fast turn in to the final corner. They cheat across the inside curb and then into the pit straight. It's a short pit straight actually after all that. And Perez, disappointingly for him, only drops into 4th.
And just ahead of Liam Lawson in the RB, we're on board with Oscar Piastri, fastest overall in the middle sector. Max Verstappen just on a preparation lap. Lewis Hamilton fastest in the first sector and very competitive in the middle part of the lap. 200 miles an hour round the final corner. Here comes Oscar Piastri, a 1:34.0, but half a second between himself and Pierre Gasly, with Fernando Alonso now 4th as Lando Norris goes second fastest, 3/100ths of a second behind his teammate. And here comes Lewis Hamilton to finish his first flying lap, only 3rd fastest. The McLarens having more pace in the middle and final sector.
Interesting. It's the first time the Mercedes hasn't really been sort of plug and play fastest, isn't it? A couple of good laps there on this. We've had the Ferrari Challenge out there on different tyres that have taken up a bit of the Formula One rubber, so they've got to put it back down and re-prepare the racetrack. But at the moment, it's advantage McLaren over Mercedes.
Makes a bit of a difference to 12 months ago, where you might remember both McLarens going out in Q1. The first and second fastest currently. In the bottom 5 then, the drivers that haven't set a lap time so far. Lance Stroll still not on the track as they try and fix that energy recovery system on his Aston Martin, and we haven't seen Magnussen or Hülkenberg out on track yet. They're leaving it late at Haas, which is always a gamble on a street circuit because a yellow flag, red flag could absolutely ruin their qualifying. Verstappen then bypasses Oscar Piastri and starts to make his way 1.9 kilometers full throttle, flat out down the Las Vegas Boulevard.
Extraordinarily and surprisingly, we've not seen a car in a wall, have we, in Formula One in any of the sessions. The drivers have been very immaculate actually in that respect. We've seen a few down the escape roads, but they're managing to keep it well out of the walls, and once again you can see just how slick the surface is.
It's got a sheen to it, hasn't it? As here comes Verstappen round that final corner. And where's his first flying lap going to put him? 5th fastest, nearly 3/10 behind Oscar Piastri. Max saying that the tyres so sensitive. He hopes that whatever changes Red Bull made during the final practice session will give him the temperature and the grip to go with it. At the moment, 3/10 off the pace.
So this is all about getting the soft tyre working for one lap. We do know that the medium tyre is the best race tyre, but it's graining up. The surface is ripping up when they do longer runs. But right now, there's nothing they can do about that. Nothing they need to worry about. It's all about pure speed.
Yuki Tsunoda, currently 10th fastest on the track. Charles Leclerc, without a flying lap, shall we say, to his name, going fastest in the middle sector as Franco Colapinto moves into the top 9. And Fernando Alonso into the top 5. And we say that this track is going to be evolving throughout this session. Maybe an indication there with Alonso just 2/10 off the pace.
Now both Haas's, Max and Hülkenberg, they're no time at the moment. And they've been unbelievably fast at times, haven't they? That car seems to be really working. Showing a lot of confidence, though, as Magnussen now finally leaves the pits and Leclerc goes fastest by just under 1/10 of a second.
And with some news from Haas, here's Ted Kravitz.
I feel like a bird watcher down here. The lesser spotted Magnussen and Hülkenberg. Yes, that was their strategy, just to wait and get the best track evolution, and no problems with the car. They fire up and they're on the track now.
Jared Leto in the Aston Martin garage. I think he played the opening ceremony here in Las Vegas last year. Fantastic musician. Right, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, 1 and 2, and still separated by 10th and a half of a second, which is absolutely nothing around 3.8 miles of Formula One racetrack.
Going again, weren't they? So both McLarens faster on a second attempt, and again then setting the benchmark.
So everyone has been out on the track, apart from Lance Stroll. You've got 19 drivers to choose from so far. If you want to ride on board with any of them, you can do so. You need the Sky Sports app, the Sky Sports login, and you can choose your driver and listen to their team radio too. Sky Q, Sky Stream, Sky Glass, and now customers, press the remote control interactive button, and you could do what we're doing at the moment, maybe ride on board with Max Verstappen. And it's fascinating when we go on board with the drivers, because you can see firsthand just how much work they're having to do to keep the car where they need it.
Absolutely, as the Ferrari one giving the other a little bit of slipstream help, heading down to turn 14. See them sparking away. They're in parc fermé conditions now, so they can't change the fundamental setup of the car. They'll have new skid blocks on for the race. That's why they always spark, despite not having much fuel on board in the early stages of qualifying.
Sergio Perez finishes a lap, goes only 12 fastest. Carlos Sainz moves up into the top 2, and Max Verstappen's gone quickest through the middle sector. We can pick him up here through turn 15 and 16, threading that Red Bull through that impossibly tight section. Now, 8th gear, and seriously, 200 miles an hour, and it looks so easy as he goes 4th fastest overall. And still a fair way off the pace.
Yeah, Max is making the difference on that lap. I think it confirms Red Bull do not have fundamental pace on a single lap anyway around here. They're doing their best to recover some of that, because they were a second off the pace, weren't they, in earlier sessions?
George Russell quickest in the first sector. His teammate Lewis Hamilton, 5th fastest, has gone quickest in the middle sector. Russell goes fastest overall with a 1:33.3 as we pick up Charles Leclerc through turn 11 now. This is a corner you've got to ace and get that car as straight as you can and get the foot down, get the traction out of turn 12. Little bit of a toe behind the Haas of Hulkenberg, and he's still not in the DRS zone. And we're nearly halfway down that strip. The DRS zone will come at you and you'll see the line. And now to give him that extra little boost down the straight with the DRS wing wide open. Pick your braking points. Get on the throttle as soon as you possibly can. Sounds easy, probably isn't.
I love the sound of the engine singing down the back straight in top gear. Everything, especially in this cool air, it really makes the internal combustion engine part of it just sing.
Onsong moves into 2nd place, and look how tight it is. Top 4 separated by just over a 10th of a second with just over 4 minutes to go. Still no Lance Stroll out there. Hulkenberg and Magnussen in the bottom 5. Ocon and Bottas with them in that bottom 5. Pierre Gasly, currently 11th fastest. Is he safe? Probably not, given the way the track is ramping up. And Magnussen and Hulkenberg setting very competitive first sector times. Gasly too, matching those 2 Haas's.
Well, it's a little team, Haas, with a big confidence tonight to cruise out with 4 minutes to go without a decent time on the board.
But I love the way that the way they go racing has changed dramatically this season under the new team principal of Io Komatsu. They are, as you say, little team, big racing ambitions, and they're making all the right decisions, it has to be said. Here comes Pierre Gasly towards the end of his latest lap, goes 8th fastest, 1:33.8, which he'll be hoping should help him breathe a little more easily going into the final few moments of qualifying. And here's Kevin Magnussen. Oh, that was close to the wall, K-Mag.
Misses as good as a mile, as they say. And then look, it's just a zone down there. You're going to turn in absolutely flat out, and he gets into the top 10. Probably not as staggeringly fast as we've seen. He'll now do a battery recharge lap and go again. Hulkenberg 9th.
As Max Verstappen goes fastest in the middle sector. Valtteri Bottas, the driver at risk, and Sergio Perez in that bottom 5 at the moment. Sergio Perez, who qualified only 11th here last year. Zhou Guanyu moves into 11th place, 7/10ths off the pace. Decent lap from him. Colapinto as not lighting up this particular lap. I think we're going to have to wait until he reaches the line once more to see the pace of that Williams. And Max Verstappen goes fastest overall with a 1:33.2. Ted, down to you.
A couple of things from down here. First of all, the McLarens don't think they're safe. They're burning through another set of soft tyres, both Piastri and Norris going out again. But great job by the Aston Martin mechanics. And Lance Stroll is out on track, Crofty. I've got to tell you, that car was in about 100 pieces going into this qualifying session. I never thought they were going to make it. I just thought they were being optimistic, but he's just trundled past the pit lane in front of me. Nice chrome shiny crash helmet designed for this race. What a great job by his mechanics. He's out on track.
20 cars in this race, all 20 of them out on the racetrack. It's looking busy out there.
It's not looking particularly great, though, for Sergio Perez through the first sector. Now, he should get to the line before the checkered flag, so if this lap doesn't count and he's got his batteries charged up, he can go for it again. But that first sector was not what he was looking for, and the second sector not brilliant either. This is not the lap for Sergio Perez. This is a preparation for what is to come. And well done to those Aston Martin mechanics. Lance Stroll's going to get one chance and one chance only to get this done. Perez getting towards the end there of the boulevard, and they're queuing up to find a gap and find some space here, and Perez is threading his way through all that. So if this lap doesn't count, Martin, he's going to have to go for it, and not particularly the best position in terms of the gap to the car in front for the lap that will have to count.
Yeah, and it's got him in so far, but I don't think he'll have the battery. He won't have a battery charged up for an immediate another lap. Either that or he wasted the battery on the previous lap. But we're going to see improvements all the way through until the last car has crossed the line. As long as you start the lap before the checkered flag drops, you can finish it.
Sergio Perez, who's missed Q3 on 8 occasions this season and has only got 3 top 5 starts in the last 15 Grand Prix, has got it all to do. George Russell having a much better lap of it. Lewis Hamilton having a decent lap too, setting his personal best. Russell and Hamilton absolutely flying currently as we get now to the final corner with Lewis Hamilton. Goes quickest with a 1:33.2, 700ths ahead of Max Verstappen. Here comes George Russell, his teammate, to replace Hamilton at the top by about nearly 4 100ths of a second. Verstappen's pitted, they think he's safe. Gasly goes 8th fastest, and that means now that we've got Albon, Bottas, Colapinto, Lawson and Stroll in the bottom 5. Forget that, Colapinto's gone 9th fastest, has pushed Alonso now down into 16th as Ocon goes 11th.
And Albon's had a time deleted, but I don't think it was a critical time. But he's down in 18th.
Sergio Perez, the driver in the bottom 5. Forget at risk, Sergio Perez has dropped out of the top 15, been replaced by Yuki Tsunoda in the RB, and that is another poor night in qualifying for Sergio Perez.
And bad news for Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship as well, in terms of potential tomorrow to score from that second car.
Here comes Lance Stroll, a 26.8 and a 31.4 for the first 2 sectors. Not going to be enough to be troubling the top of the timing charts here. Is it enough, though, to get him out of the bottom 5? It isn't. He qualifies 20th after qualifying 19th here last year. Disappointing evening for Lance Stroll, but to be fair, they did a tremendous job to get him out in the first place.
Yeah, so Albon then is going to qualify actually a long way behind his teammate at the moment. He's down in 18th. Colapinto sneaks through in the top 10 at this time.
So Alex Albon then, who's been out-qualified once already by Franco Colapinto in their 7 qualifying sessions together, who started 5th last year in the last Vegas Grand Prix.
Knocked out by 700ths.
Yeah, unbelievable. It just doesn't get any better. Couldn't find any grip.
Sad times for Sergio Perez. Albon started 5th last year. He's going to start down in 18th. Valtteri Bottas will start the race 20th and last. He's got a 5-place grid penalty coming his way. Lance Stroll will start 19th for the 2nd year running. Fernando Alonso is also out. 2 Aston Martins out in that first qualifying session. Sergio Perez joins them. So welcome back to Las Vegas, where it is very much warm coats in the stands. The track temperature 14 degrees, the air temperature just over 12 degrees. But well done to Joe Guan Yu, who's been the slowest qualifier in the last 8 races, and he's made it through into Q2. Well done to Haas for their strategy that sees Magnussen and Hulkenberg through and saving tyres in the process. Well done to Mercedes, Martin, who have carried on their form to finish first and second fastest in Q1. But what about at McLaren? Zach Brown is with us, their CEO. He's on the pit wall, as we just see Kevin Magnussen first, and a quick replay to show just how little grip there is out there. Zach, how was that Q1 session for you?
Well, that was okay. We're just starting our second run, and I don't think we got the optimum operating temperature, so either driver got their first sector optimized, but we made it through comfortably, and I think we should be fine for Q3. The Mercedes continue to look very quick. Max is being the world champion he is, and the Ferraris look good, so it's going to be very close, but Mercedes certainly seem to be the class of the field at the moment.
And you used an extra set of soft tyres there, Zach, yeah?
Yeah, we didn't last year, and we didn't make it out of Q1, so we took a bit of a conservative approach. Our competitors didn't, but we wanted to be better safe than sorry.
And those soft tyres that you've used in Q1, that second set, you can bring them back in Q2 or not?
Yeah, we only went through the first sector, so we're discussing now what we want to go out on, so we didn't use them too much.
Zach, thanks ever so much indeed. We'll be back with you after Q2, which off-air Martin Brundle's just said it's going to be tight, this one, isn't it?
It is going to be very tight, yeah. You've got 2 Mercedes, 1 Red Bull, 2 Ferraris and 2 McLarens in the hunt for pole position, certainly for the front row of the grid.
Sergio Perez said there was no grip out there. Well, he wasn't the only driver to say that, but somehow, Martin, others were finding pace, and the difference in terms of best lap time between himself and his teammate Max Verstappen was about 9/10 of a second.
Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? And it's sort of cumulative. You know, if you generate a bit of grip or at least some confidence, you attack the braking zone, you attack the corners, you generate more temperature, which generates more grip, more confidence, more temperature again. It's a bit of a snowball, and off you go. And if you can't get to that first stage, then you're nowhere. And I think that's where Sergio Perez just found himself.
Finding himself with not much confidence, full stop, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is sad to see, and especially on a street circuit where, let's face it, in qualifying on street circuits, Sergio has been absolutely electric in the past.
Yeah, but this is a track that needs some confidence, because we're these long corners that are surrounded by walls, you go in there with a lot of belief the car's going to stick, and if you don't have that confidence, or you know, if the car starts to slide a little bit and you get nervous, you tighten up. You'll all know, if you play tennis or you play golf, the moment you tighten up, it doesn't work, does it?
Yeah.
And it's just the same in a racing car.
You've seen my golf swing. Very accurate description of where it all goes wrong. They look like those set of soft tyres that they used in at the back end of Q1. Thank you very much to McLaren for taking the tyres out of their blankets just as we were watching on and looking in. And there goes Oscar Piastri then out onto the track. Already out there is Max Verstappen.
It's always nice to see the little Senna badge on the McLaren, isn't it? It's on the front of the halo.
It certainly is. And along with McLaren, I've got to say, racing in papaya. Zach Brown decided that a few years ago, to go back to Bruce McLaren's racing colours, to go back through the years, the history and the heritage of a McLaren team on the verge of a Constructors' Championship win for the first time since 1998. Imagine the celebrations. Should they finish on top at the end of Abu Dhabi? Ted, down to you.
Thank you, Crofty. Yes, well, we'll see, won't we? But yeah, well, Alex Albon absolutely just sounding so frustrated not to make it into Q2 for Williams. Well done to Franco Colapinto into this session and inside the top 10 as well. So after a shaky, I think we can call that, putting it nicely, Brazil for the Argentine, Crofty, Colapinto absolutely shining around the streets of Las Vegas.
Yeah, Alex Albon. Not exactly made a habit of being out-qualified by a teammate over the years, but Franco's done it now twice in the 7 qualifying sessions they've had as teammates at Williams. And still think there's half a chance that you'll see Franco Colapinto on the grid for next season in Formula One?
I think it's a great chance he will. Yeah, probably in quite a competitive car. We'll see how that all plays out. But I think tonight's various performances cements that a little bit further.
Yeah. It's only, what, Franco Colapinto's 7th qualifying session. He's not exactly the finished article just yet, but there's so much potential, I think, in that young racer that we will see for a few years to come, I'm sure, in Formula One. Right, to the present then. And George Russell, a 1:33.5 as he crosses the line with his first flying lap in this Q2 session, 4/10 off his best time during Q1. Max Verstappen taking a little bit longer to build things up to temperature, crossed the line with a 1:39. That wasn't exactly pushing hard. And Nico Hülkenberg is pushing hard though, a 1:33.2 from him. He goes fastest. Colapinto, 3rd fastest as he completes his lap. Lewis Hamilton making his way to the final corner now, fastest in the first sector that we've seen so far, and goes quickest overall by just over a 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, Hülkenberg found 7/10 of a second, which is a good effort, and that's given him a very competitive time already.
Lewis Hamilton missed out on Q3 here in Vegas last season by the margin of about 3/100ths of a second. Not exactly much.
He seems to be on a mission here, doesn't he, Lewis, after a very, very difficult Brazilian Grand Prix. A few comments in the media about, you know, about how good he still is, that has fired him up nicely, I think.
Certainly has.
And what was the expression? Shelf life, I think, came out of Toto, didn't it? Which has been expanded and probably misquoted. Well, not misquoted, but taken out of context, perhaps. But whatever, I sense Lewis Hamilton is very much here on a mission.
Absolutely, and on a mission for the next 3 races as well. He will, of course, be in Abu Dhabi, and they're running a competition at the moment, aren't they? So that if you want, you can have your name on Lewis Hamilton's car to finish off his time with Mercedes. Oscar Piastri, by 1/1000th of a second, goes just behind Lewis Hamilton and ahead of Max Verstappen.
Yeah, it's a thousandth of a second between Hamilton and Piastri. That's how close it is at the moment. And they're not too far behind, are they? Down to 5th place, Hülkenberg. A 10th is going to be at least a row on the grid tonight.
Yeah, I think you're right. Kevin Magnussen goes 6th fastest. Liam Lawson slots into the top 10. Zhou Guanyu, who's currently 10th fastest, make that 11th as Yuki Tsunoda crosses the line. Times will change.
Yeah, this is interesting. We've got some outliers in there again. The 2 Hasses, Tsunoda, they might spoil somebody's evening, those cars.
They might just do that as Esteban Ocon moves into the top 10. Alpine, fresh off that double podium in Brazil, really sparks that team into life, and in terms of, you know, celebrations and having something to celebrate when they return from a racetrack. It was brilliant to see, it really was. He's out the top 10 now. His teammate just replaced him there. But of course, they went well here last year, did Alpine, with Gasly qualifying 4th and Ocon finishing 4th in the race. Right, here comes Carlos Sainz. Let's just have a little look at this lap. And that wasn't the steadiest of entries into turn 1.
No, he got in too deep, didn't he? And spent the entire corner trying to collect it back up. And, yeah, the car just didn't bite as he turned. Just carried a little bit too much speed. Let's see what he does for a first sector. 26.1 is the target time in the first sector at the moment. And what have we got from Sainz? He's backed off.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. And to be honest, you might as well. If you've made a mistake that early on, you've got time to correct it and work on the preparation that you need. Drivers will have that display, won't they, on their dashboard. Martin Karoon was pointing it out on the sky pad where their tyres are in terms of temperatures, and some have even got their brakes temperatures on there as well for this race.
The front of the Red Bull, not too bad through there. A little bit of understeer, but really not too bad. There's not lighting the rear axle up on the throttle. This is one of those long corners around the wall. And then a very quick stop coming up as you get on to the back straight. It's tight on the right-hand side. That was very tight, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But once again, it doesn't matter as long as you miss it.
7 minutes to go. Lewis Hamilton ahead of Oscar Piastri, ahead of Max Verstappen. The bottom 5 currently features Esteban Ocon, Liam Lawson, Zhou Guanyu, and Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz yet to set a time. Into turn 14, another big, heavy stopping zone. 3 big, heavy braking zones around this track. Comes Max Verstappen.
He's really wringing its neck.
Yeah.
Just short of overdriving it. Max is really thrashing that car and goes fastest.
By 5/100ths of a second. 52 milliseconds separate the top 3 currently. Absolutely nothing at the end of 3.8 miles of competitive action. This is going to be so tight when we go for pole, and also when we determine the pecking order. The top 10 they're going to be there at the end. George Russell, a 26.1 for the first sector. His teammate Lewis Hamilton has matched that on his latest lap.
Yeah, I mean, you can see them just waiting for the car to stop sliding through some of these corners, and it's how much you could carry, but fastest in the middle sector as well for George Russell, and the car, the track, the confidence, all coming towards them, and the stopwatch never lies.
That's a fabulous middle sector for George Russell. 2/10 up on Lewis Hamilton, best middle sector we've seen so far. Carlos Sainz has hooked up a couple of decent sectors as his teammate Charles Leclerc matches Sainz through the first part of the lap and the second part of the lap too. George Russell then, round that swooping left-hander he comes, and he puts a bit of daylight between himself and Max Verstappen by 2/10 of a second. And we can see Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton out on the track. Hamilton finishing his lap under a 10th behind his teammate. Sainz is making his way right now around the final corner, only 5th fastest.
Yeah, but that's they're the front runners we're expecting. So who's going to have a surprise? I mean, Leclerc, he should pop that up into the front top 3 it is now as well. So top 10 go through, of course, into the final Q3 shootout.
And the bottom 5 all in the pits, their tyres warming up nicely in the blankets and just waiting for the opportune moment to come out onto the track. The Bellagio fountains continue to dance away. One of the great attractions in Vegas. Unlike a lot of things in this city, Martin, they don't cost you anything either.
Yeah, I mean, you can just watch them for free.
Yes.
Yeah, I just find this place extraordinary. Whether it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the morning, is teeming with people, isn't it?
There's always something happening in Vegas. Esteban Ocon out on the track, braking zone into turn 5. Leads that qualifying head-to-head with Pierre Gasly at the moment by 12 sessions to 9. They could yet tie by the end of the season. As the rich and the famous, Seth Rogen, one of them, watching on from the back of the garages. They're the VIP seats, if you're lucky enough to get those. You're getting right close to the action in the back of the garages. Preparation lap for Lando Norris then. Either that or he's made a mistake and we haven't seen that.
When you see a driver just turning the wheel once smoothly into a corner, you know they're at one with the car at that point. They don't overturn, they don't underturn the wheel, they don't have to make a lot of corrections. If the driver and the car's working well together, it should be one lovely sweep. Oh, and we can't see it, but the same with the throttle pedal. We should have a pedal box cam, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
See what these ballerinas are doing on the pedals.
Will be fabulous to see. We've seen it from time to time, but it's not a camera angle that's necessarily stuck for the foreseeable.
There's not a whole lot of space down there. It's a little bit dangerous having cameras down the pedal box, but we do see it in rally cars, don't we, in touring car, where there's somewhat more space to put it.
Right, here's Lando Norris then. And Lando Norris is a man that has taken 5 poles in the last 7 Grand Prix. Has been absolutely spectacular when it comes to qualifying. He's just trying to put in a time at the moment that will see him safely through to the final part. And we'll see him back out on the track, I'm sure, in a moment. All eyes in the McLaren garage on what's going out on the track. There's their team principal, Andrea Stella. Deep conversation.
6 different chassis in the top 10, just to show how competitive it is. I think McLaren will be a little bit disappointed. I mean, a quarter of a second, a blink of an eye in 90 seconds of track time, but it's, I don't know, it's amazing. You think, well, I can find a quarter of a second. You can't.
No, you can't.
You can go out, you can try, you usually overdrive and lose a half a second, but and somehow the really world-class drivers do pull a bit of extra time out of the bag.
What's really interesting here, Lando Norris, Zhou Guanyu, Carlos Sainz is just going to nip past you down the inside as they're all trying to create some space. Norris has gone for another preparation lap. Oscar Piastri is on a flying lap, although he's dropped about 0.3 of a second in the middle sector to the best middle sector time so far set by George Russell. And Piastri is just making his way, while we're on board with the Sauber, Piastri's making his way towards turn 14, where they're all queuing up now to try and make a bit of space.
Piastri got a lovely slipstream behind Norris, though, down the back straight by his teammate.
I hope for his sake that extra slipstream and that pace advantage wasn't then ruined a little bit by threading his way through a couple of cars. He goes 4th fastest eventually with a 1:33.0, 10th and a half off the pace. He's going to be fine. He'll get through on that one, but there's a lot of cars queuing up at turn 14 at the end of the strip when he approached at pace. Hamilton's on a flyer, meanwhile, 26.0 for the first sector. Russell, 30.8 for the second sector. They're the best that we've had so far.
That Mercedes loves a longer run, doesn't it? Every time they do that, they just keep going faster and faster and become, yet again, the 2 drivers to beat. The checkered flag has dropped.
And Zhou Guanyu, in only his 3rd appearance in Q2 this season, is trying to make his way into Q3 as Russell goes fastest overall. Along with Zhou Guanyu, Lawson improving, Ocon improving, Colapinto not improving on this lap so far, Gasly improving, Magnussen goes into the top 10, pushes it Yuki Tsunoda down into 10th, Hülkenberg goes ahead of Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton is fastest by 0.2 from his teammate George Russell, and Carlos Sainz then slots in between the 2 Mercedes. Here comes Zhou Guanyu, valiant effort by 0.8 of a second, he misses out on the top 10. That's a pretty slow-moving Liam Lawson coming into the pits. Lawson just wasn't finding the pace, maybe. Tsunoda goes fastest, and that's Franco Colapinto. And for the first time this weekend, we have had a driver hit the wall. Gasly goes 4th fastest as the Williams splutters to a halt.
Not another Williams in the wall.
And that is exactly what everyone around the world is probably saying now, and what those mechanics in the garage feared the most this weekend. 5 accidents in the last 2 races, and Colapinto, I'm glad to say, is okay, but he's added to the crash damage bill with a skirmish into the wall here in Vegas tonight.
And that's 3 wheels, 3 corners he's had a go at, front wing, rear wing, might have done a gearbox as well with the shock loading, and oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, neither Williams nor Colapinto needed that. That's a lot of rebuilding to do as well before race day. And
they've got spare parts. They have enough. They have 2 sets of everything and the latest spec as well for this weekend. But I wonder if, has he had a coming together? I know Liam Lawson wasn't involved. We saw Lawson going slowly. Brushes the wall there.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, we saw Liam Lawson going very slowly, didn't we? Was there contact between the 2 cars? That's an Alpine ahead. Oh,
he's hit the wall.
He hit it. Oh,
he clipped the wall on the inside.
And
yeah, just a total judgment error there. He's just turned in too much.
That's the sort of thing we see in Monaco through the swimming pool chicane.
Yeah.
You know, drivers will hit the Armco, that will move. Concrete block is not going to move.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just pure judgmental error, I'm afraid. And wow, what a lot of damage. Oof. So he's hit the wall at well over 25G because the medical car was deployed. And look how far that skidded. Yeah.
For the second successive race, Franco Colapinto has crashed in qualifying. He's out of Q2. He wouldn't have taken part in the rest of the qualifying session, even if he'd made it into the top 10. Liam Lawson is also out. Joe Guan Yu misses out by the merest of margins at the time. Kevin Magnussen, I think those yellow flags cost Kevin Magnussen as well. He was on a flyer, and Esteban Ocon also out. Hulkenberg then gets through into Q3, and Lando Norris, Yuki Tsunoda, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, George Russell, Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton all make it through to the top 10. Q3 will be delayed, the start of, but we'll go for pole soon. After Franco Colapinto's accident, there's a lot of debris on the track. There's a lot for James Vowles, the Williams team boss, to think about as well. Another
Q3,
big
mate.
crash for a
Well
team
done.
that has had
let's go, baby.
Yeah,
recently.
Vegas, baby.
5
Come on.
crashes over the course of the
Vegas is hometown, of course, man.
Grand Prix
You know.
weekends, and the damage bill is mounting up. They've got the spare parts. Have they got new gearbox within the allocation? Have they got power unit parts within the allocation? And a penny for Franco Colapinto's thoughts as he climbs into the medical car and makes his way to the medical centre. He'll be checked over, given the nature of the impact, Martin. But it was all going so well for him. Out-qualifies his teammate, and then that happened.
Yeah, it's his third massive shunt, though, isn't it? 2 in Brazil, 1 here, which he's got to sort out. He's showing good speed, no doubt about that. We saw one of the overhead shots, and the barrier was quite well bent over where his first
on the
impact
inside.
point on the outside.
On the outside.
Because he clipped a wall, then he went to the outside. So whether or not they can sign that barrier off to continue, if it's just bent, or if they think it's structurally still fine, certainly the car isn't, but as to how long this delay will be, otherwise it's just a clean-up, and they'll want all those bits and pieces back, and it's always amazing how many cables and capillaries and what have you go through the wings. The tethers, once again, have done their job very well indeed in keeping all that lot intact, so it didn't come back and hit the driver and didn't fly off and hit corner workers or into grandstands, the double tethers, I should say, these days. So that all worked fine. They can clean the track up pretty quickly. My concern is how the structural integrity of the barrier that he collided with after the initial impact.
And no news yet of any restart time. That is not going to be the easiest Formula One car to stick onto the back of a low loader either. Ted, let's head down to you at Williams.
Thank you, Crofty. Yes, plenty of drivers saying they ran over a lot of the debris of the Colapinto crash and checked their cars, but more importantly, asking if Franco Colapinto is okay. All the drivers know that any accident here, the proximity of the concrete walls is going to be significant, and they're getting the news that the driver is effectively okay. I wish I could say the same for the Williams mechanics. Just having a look at the Williams garage, they've already got the screens out ready to cover the front of the garage where they'll be trying to fix Franco's car. As you've already said, Crofty, they come here with in a better situation spares-wise than they went to the Brazilian race after the triple header that we've just had, but still there is a lack of chassis that are available. Let's just put it that way. The chassis that Colapinto and the chassis that Albon are in is the repaired chassis from Brazil. It's not a new one. There is a new one in a box somewhere, but they don't want to have to make that up if they don't have to. But they've already been through 5 front wings, 5 floors, 5 sets of bodyworks, 2 damaged chassis, both repaired from Brazil after those huge accidents, and they've got another one tonight.
And if you're wondering why he didn't slow it down, why he just let the accident carry on, he had no ability to slow it down. Front wheels are off, one of the rear wheels are off. He was sitting in a toboggan with no braking capacity whatsoever.
He can press the brake pedal, but the brakes aren't going to be rubbing against anything at that stage. News from the FIA, a lot of debris on the track. And as you rightly pointed out, Martin, some potential barrier repairs could be needed, which the circuit operations team are currently working on. So we'll keep you updated as to any start time or whether the barriers do need to be repaired or not. But that could be a lengthy delay if that barrier does need repairing.
Yeah, could be in terms of they'll have to put another upright or 2 in it, because it was bent over quite a, but it wasn't down, it was just deviating the barrier. But as always, you've got to consider if another car hits the same point,
which is certainly possible. Coming out of turn 14, you want to get the power down as soon as you can, and you're threading that car through, it's like the eye of a needle in Formula One terms, with a low grip track, and it's an easy accident to happen.
Yeah, it is. Surprise, but these cars are very wide, but he might have been slightly distracted from the car in front. He's just been a few centimeters left of where he needed to be, and it just whistled the front left straight off, and the trajectory after that was wherever he was going to hit something hard, unfortunately. But this is the time for the experienced drivers, just keep the pulse down, keep the brain focused and in the zone, basically. Not too much in the zone, but just just keep your mind in neutral. Think about nothing other than, as soon as the light goes on, go out and do what you've got to do.
They're the 10 drivers. They're doing just that in the garages currently, that they'll be going for pole at some stage. 10 drivers already out of this qualifying session. One of them, Sergio Perez. Let's hear from him now.
Yes, Jackie, you were concerned even yesterday about your single lap pace, but had you hoped for better today, obviously?
Yeah, I did. Definitely wanted more today, and felt like we were making some progress, but just not enough there in the end, and it turned out to be quite a disappointing.
Yeah, a lot of talk about the downforce levels Red Bull had this weekend. They trimmed the wing, I think, but you are optimistic, a bit more optimistic for tomorrow.
Yeah, I think tomorrow the race pace looked a lot more competitive yesterday than we were early on, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, his teammate went from 17th on the grid to win in Sao Paulo last time out. A magnificent win it was too. Sergio Perez will be trying to do something from 16th. By the way, that win of Max Verstappen's only the 5th time that driver has won from 17th or lower on the grid in 1,121 World Championship races.
Yeah, that's an extraordinary stat, isn't it? And of course, including the people he passed, was his teammate Perez, who went forward just 1 or 2 places. It was an outstanding performance from Max Verstappen in treacherous conditions, but Sergio, it's just not going well, is it? It's not, you know, just as he needs to pull something out of the bag. Once again, he's got the disappointment.
If you look out of our commentary box window, Martin, you'll see a low loader has just pulled up with a Williams on the back of it, and that really doesn't look any better in real life than it looked on the TV monitor when we saw it a few moments ago. Karun Chandok is at the Skypad with some more Williams analysis for us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Crofty. Let's just take another look at it and slow it down, because Colapinto, there's a bit of indecision. Look, he gets over this curb on the right-hand side, so that's all going fine. But now watch his hands. Just watch. There, he does a turn. Then I think realizes at this point that he's heading towards the wall. Now watch, he does a slight correction there, opens up the wheel, then turns in a second time. So I think he kind of knew he was heading towards the wall, then tried to open up the wheel, but then clearly misjudged it. I'll just go back again and just play that final input once again. Watch, I'll just play along in slow motion, in, open up, then in again. And that second input that he made, it clearly responded more perhaps than he expected, but certainly, you know, just misjudged the amount that he sort of tried to course correct himself, and it's done a hefty amount of damage to a team that's, as you guys were saying before, already done a lot of damage this season.
It was the extent with which he hit the wall. It was it wasn't a glance, was it? He hit the wall,
yeah,
basically. But the good news is, I think the bit of that barrier that's damaged is on top of another wall, isn't it? So they should be able to just pull that out and hopefully be satisfied with the integrity of that. But what a terrible mess the car is.
Joe Bauer down there from the FIA taking some photos of the Williams car for a closer analysis after this qualifying session. Joe is was the technical policeman in the paddock,
and does a brilliant job for Formula One, and he'll want to see how the car's coped with the impact.
Yeah, and the FIA always striving to improve safety standards, and every accident gets analysed and ways are found to make things stronger, to protect the drivers in the future.
They're a touch early with that one, but well, he's the reigning world champion, of course. But
they may be celebrating one of the previous three then.
Yes, but I think Max is dragging the Red Bull into contention here, isn't he?
Yeah. But it's into contention for, you'd say, second row, maybe 5th on the grid. The Mercedes looks the form car in qualifying so far. McLaren do, certainly with Oscar Piastri, often leave it late to show their hand. And then Ferrari, Sainz and Leclerc, who I'm sure will figure in the front couple of rows by the time we get to the end of this qualifying session. We're waiting for news as to when Q3 is going to start. First big test this really for Rui Marquez, the new race director, replacing Niels Wittich, who was sacked by the FIA in the lead up to this Las Vegas Grand Prix. And, well, Rui was on duty in Macau, the F3, the Grand Prix weekend there.
Well, that was a busy weekend for him then, because they had red flag after red flag down there, didn't he?
He knows what it's like to run a street race, that is for sure, but they'll want to make sure that the barrier is absolutely in 100% condition before they let the cars back out onto the track. Let's head down to Ted.
Just to pick up on what you said there, Crofty, that Mercedes are quick here. Why, I hear you ask? Why are they quick here? Well, they're a team who've always gone well in cold conditions and on dusty tracks, but also, do you remember the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps all those weeks ago, all those months ago? It was warmer back then, wasn't it, Crofty? Even for Spa. But Mercedes are one of the teams who do have a very effective low downforce package. Spa, a very quick track. Monza are also the same. They weren't too bad there. And it's the same here. So together with the dusty track, the cold conditions, and having a good low drag, low downforce package, that is why the Mercedes are going so well. The big question for me, guys, is where a Ferrari? We saw a bit of a sign, didn't we? A sign of signs. The signs sign was interrupting the symmetry of Russell or Hamilton being first and second in Q1 and Q2, with Sainz being second, of course, in Q2. So have we seen the first signs from Sainz that Ferrari have got something over one lap? I said at the beginning of the show, Crofty, I'll say it again, they are happy with their race pace. They're so confident, Ferrari, with their race pace, and that they will be able to keep the tyres alive and not graining. Like in Monza, remember that, with the result they had there, where Mercedes might face some graining tomorrow on this cold track. Of course, Leclerc won in Monaco, just to remind everyone who's forgotten.
We hadn't.
I know, I know you hadn't, but it's early in the morning back home.
And let's not forget Pete Gasly, who got himself up into P4 in Q2, found 0.8 of a second between Q1 and Q2. That's a good effort in the Alpine. He's sort of in the mix there. But surely there'll be one Merc on the front row. That's how it's looking at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a question of, will it be two, or who might join them?
Well, you have to go back, don't you, to Silverstone for the last time then that Mercedes took a pole position, and the last time that anyone other than a Ferrari or a McLaren took a pole position. There's the Williams on the skates, covered over now, and being returned to the garage. It's a long push down for the team. That's a big rebuild, so might necessitate a chassis change.
Yeah, it almost looks like a skip job, doesn't it, to be honest, and start again. It's had a massive whack on 3 of its corners.
Yeah. Zach Brown on the pit wall at McLaren as the Williams, I think he's just been pushed behind you there, down the pit lane, Zach. Right, where are your thoughts heading into this Q3 session? Where are you thinking that the danger is coming from, or that you've got the edge over?
Well, the Mercedes continue to look pretty awesome. Just looking over the data with Andrea, I think if we can get together our ideal laps, I think we can be on the first 2 rows. I don't think we've got Mercedes pace, but I think we might be best of the rest, but it's going to be very close, and getting the tires set up perfectly for that lap will be important. I'm not sure those that have 2 new sets of tires will actually use them, because they look to be quicker on their second run on the same set.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Zach, with only 12 minutes in Q3, obviously a reduced time as per usual. You're restricted then on how far. That means you've got to put a lot of fuel in when they first head out.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 1 used set, 1 new set. We'll obviously run both, but looking at the times that the Mercedes have done, they've done it on their second run, so they may not need their 2 new sets. But yeah, let's see. It'll be about traffic management and no mistakes. Tricky track around here, very slippery.
Have you discussed the possibility of a hot stop, whereby if you've got 2 sets of new tyres, you'll come in for a live pit stop like a race, with the tyres just been taken out of their blankets, and then go for pole with 1 more lap without the usual refueling in between tyre changes in qualifying? Is that a possibility in conditions like this tonight that could work?
Could be for some, but we don't have 2 new sets of tires, so we'll probably start on our used and finish on our new. But that's some of the discussion that's going on right now about fuel load.
And in terms of this weekend, it's priority number 1, finish ahead of Ferrari, and then if Lando can keep the driver's title going and on to Qatar, that would be a very satisfactory weekend for you, yeah?
100%. I think priority 1, finish ahead of Ferrari. Priority 2, finish ahead of Ferrari. And if Lando could be ahead of Max, that'd be nice going into Qatar.
Thanks ever so much, Zach. Great to have you with us. Barrier repairs are now done, to let you know. So the track is being cleared so that we can get Q3 going very, very shortly. Which one of those suites is yours for this weekend?
It's not. I'm not in the Bellagio this year. A little bit nearer the paddock, which is good. Yeah, I wasn't there last year, and I rode my scooter to the room because the room's about 15 minutes from reception. You check you've got everything before you leave the room in some of those, well, almost all the hotels in Las Vegas, because it's a long way before you get to the front door.
All right, there's the scene on the track then. It's just being swept at the moment. Barrier repairs have been done. Fine work by the trackside team. And what we'll get, 5-minute warning from the FIA so the teams can start to get ready.
Yeah, they did a good job there. Obviously, you saw the big tractor that was pulling the concrete blocks back into line. Obviously, the upper debris fencing came back with it, which is good. Clean the debris up and send them out.
Folding clothes in a clothing store. The one thing I think we've never asked Lewis Hamilton about is his first job ever. And I didn't realise he worked in retail and would have been folding people's clothes on a Saturday afternoon when the January sales were on.
First time I met him as a teenager when he was an instructor at Palmer Sport in Bedfordshire. Going around in caterings till it got dark and we couldn't see where we were going any longer.
Yeah, he's kind of made a very good career out of his second job, or his third job, clothing store, instructor, racing driver. I think that's been the better career, to be honest, for Lewis Hamilton.
Well, hasn't it?
It's not gone badly for him at all.
P1, you muppet. Oh, that's Lando describes himself as a muppet from time to time, doesn't he?
Definitely a Lando fan. Yeah, to be honest, if I was in the grandstands, I'd want to be dancing at the moment just to try and keep warm. Ted Kravitz, you shivering down in the pit lane?
Well, crucially, I'm shivering much more than I was in Q1 and Q2. The wind has picked up. I've just checked the temperature, and it's only dropped by 1 degree. But it is significantly more gusty now down here. I feel like I'm in you know when you go into some sort of catering massive fridge freezer and that blast of cold air hits you? That's what it feels like, because it's so windy now. So how that's going to affect them, it's pretty much blowing the length of the start-finish line straight. So how that's going to affect them in some corners and how that will affect any of the cars and their relative performance in windy conditions, we will wait and see in Q3.
And we haven't got long to wait, Ted. 3 minutes to get going.
I know how cold it is in the UK, so I'm not going to say anything about it being cold here, because it's irrelevant. I know we talk to a lot of people all around the world, not just the UK, but they're our primary audience, and it's freezing back there, so they won't have any sympathy for us whatsoever.
Yeah, we know it's cold, but we like the warm weather in Formula One. We're not used to temperatures like it's like being at the Nürburgring in July. It's that cold.
Yeah, it's 11:05 at night here. I mean, it's just weird. I don't know who the timing of this event. Who does it work for? I don't know who it works for.
People who finish work at 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
I don't know, and a lot of people have been discussing this. I personally, I think if you started the race at 4:30 in the afternoon Vegas time, you get the full effect of the lights as it gets dark. You get warmer temperatures for the fans at trackside as well, and it's probably a better time for TV audiences around the world. If it's a nighttime race for the fans watching in the US, and I know there's a lot of people watching our broadcast in the US. It doesn't work for the East Coast. It doesn't really work for the West Coast either.
No, it's curious timing. I know it's all about closing the strip down and letting the place still function to an extent, but it is very, very weird timing. And the race starts at 10 p.m. local tomorrow, I believe.
Yes. I'll tell you where it works. Ted has established this. Guam. It's a lovely middle of the afternoon in Guam.
Hello, Guam.
There are people watching us in Guam. I can tell you that as well. So 1 minute to go then. How, Martin, as a Formula One driver, do you now get yourself back into the zone again? You've chilled out, you've been cool and calm, but how do you now switch it on mentally?
You got a bit of adrenaline going and you know what to do. And you can simplify it. It's just straights, lefts and rights. Really, it's not much more complicated than that. Find the limit of the grip, drive to it, and if you can get away with it, drive a little bit beyond the limit of the grip. But the world-class drivers will somehow find a little bit extra. They'll have the confidence. They will challenge the side of the racetrack.
So Nico Hülkenberg, for a 10th time this season, has got himself into Q3. Lando Norris, the man who was on pole last time out in Brazil, has got himself into Q3. Yuki Tsunoda is up there in Q3, the man who very nearly didn't make it into America and had to convince them that he was a Formula One driver and he was here to mean business. Max Verstappen has got himself into Q3. He leads the cars out as the light goes green. Max Verstappen, who hasn't been on pole for a Grand Prix since Austria. Oscar Piastri, who's had 5 front row starts in his Formula One career for a Grand Prix and never been on a Grand Prix pole, has made it into Q3. Lando Norris right there with him, his teammate Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, the 2 Mercedes drivers, into Q3. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz completing then that top 10, and they were the fastest 2 in qualifying last year before Sainz took that 10th-place grid penalty.
Tim Schenken from Australia tells me it works well for Australia, this timing. I can imagine there were quite a lot of Aussies saying, "You daft pommy, it's just fine for us. We're normally the ones up at 2 o'clock in the morning watching you," which is a fair comment.
It's a fair point. We'll put it this way, 24 races in the season. If you watch them all, we admire, applaud and appreciate your dedication. And if you want to ride on board, if you're in the UK, you can do so. You need your Sky Sports ID, and we've got all 10 on boards and a team radio as well. Access it via the Sky Sports app, or Sky Q, Sky Glass, Sky Stream, or Now. And you need your interactive button on your remote control for that. Next pole for Lando Norris would be the most poles by a McLaren driver in a season in the 21st century. Lewis Hamilton got 7 poles in 2008, 2012 for McLaren. 2012 his last season for the team. Lando has 7 poles this season. Another one, of course, would match this man's tally for 2024, Max Verstappen.
Yeah, Max giving it a lot of weaving down the back straight to get a bit more temperature. And this is a warm-up lap. He's not really going for it through there. So he's still preparing his car for the one that matters.
And I would imagine he will not be alone in these preparations, Max Verstappen. Oscar Piastri has seemed to be, of the McLaren drivers, the one in more of a hurry to get on with it. By the looks of it, he's in a bit more of a hurry on this lap.
Yeah, it was wringing its neck through there, wasn't he? So this is quite a technical part around the sphere. Back end of the McLaren complaining a bit there. We're not quite enough grip, and once again under traction through the exit of the corner. So Oscar's sticking with it, but the car has not quite fully come to him yet.
He and Charles Leclerc pretty much matching their sector times through the first sector. Lando Norris also with a 26.3. Decent middle sector, 31.2 for Oscar Piastri, but that's about 4/10 down on the best middle sector that we saw during the second part of qualifying.
Yeah, look at the sparks there. What is that all about? That's a lot of sparks, isn't it, on the McLaren? Probably carrying a bit more fuel now than he was if he's going to do a longer run in the and not waste any time refueling in this Q3, the shortened Q3, or the shorter Q3, I should say, into the pit straight. and a 33.5 is nowhere near where he needs to be.
Yeah, half a second down on his best time in Q2. Carlos Sainz, meanwhile, purple, as Lando Norris goes up 0.3 faster than his teammate into provisional pole. Sainz crosses the line. So we'll cross the line at the moment. Leclerc crosses the line first with a 1:33.7. Pierre Gasly slightly ahead of that. Here comes Carlos Sainz now as Yuki Tsunoda puts himself into the top 5. This should be the fastest time we've seen so far, and is comfortably by 0.2 from Lando Norris.
32.7, the fastest time in Q2, so we're still waiting for them to really hook up the perfect lap with tyres in the right zone. And that's a 25.9 for George Russell in the first sector. That's quick.
Yeah, if Max Verstappen could get a pole tonight, it would be pole at a 23rd different circuit. That ties Sebastian Vettel at second on the all-time list. Lewis Hamilton pole at 32 tracks is the record. He could make it 33 with a pole position this evening, and his time of a 1:48.1. A preparation lap, whilst his teammate George Russell is flying through the first sector currently. Verstappen has gone quickest through the middle part of the lap. Here's that section where Franco Colapinto hit the wall and where the barriers have had to have been straightened on the outside of it.
You can sometimes see a little beam underneath the car. That's the ride height measurement, and Verstappen goes P2 with that effort.
So 1:33.2 for Verstappen, just under 0.2 behind Carlos Sainz. George Russell on the approach then to the final corner. George Russell, who was fastest in the final practice session, has had 2 poles this year in Canada and Britain, and by 0.2 of a second goes on to provisional pole as we approach the halfway stage of this Q3 session.
Yeah, they've got to be looking, if you want to be on the front row, you've got to be mid-32s at least, I would have thought. So plenty to come yet from these drivers as they just finally dial in and understand where all the grip is.
So 1:32.7 from Charles Leclerc that got pole here last year. Got pole and beat his teammate in qualifying by about 4/100ths of a second, 44 thousandths of a second.
No.
Oh dear. To be accurate, that is car number 44 having a big lock-up. No harm done, you would imagine, unless he's flat-spotted his tyres. But Hamilton back into the pits then, so they can give it the once-over, and I would imagine change those tyres. He's put pressure on himself with that lock-up there, Lewis.
Yeah, well, he should have a fresh set of boots to put on for the final run. They're putting it in the garage, so presumably they're going to put a little bit of fuel in it. And he's in the garage early, really, isn't he, by abandoning that lap, so it has bought them a little bit of time.
It's one of those things.
I want to be at the back. That was too early, I think. Track is, we ramped him.
Hey.
I was going to say, it might put him on the track a little bit earlier if he comes out, or he might actually have time for another lap on this new set of tyres, which might pay dividends if he's right at the back where his teammate wants to be.
Yeah, the trouble for George, I can see what George means. I want to be, and that you've got to aim at peak performance, but it also puts you at greater risk of picking up somebody else's yellow flag or incident or traffic or what have you. So it's a risk to go last. But Ted's got more news on Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, it is a risk, but well, all the Ferraris have come out as well, and what happened to Charles Leclerc on that first run just didn't manage to get it together, but has gone out on a new set together with Carlos Sainz's Ferrari teammate now. They're not waiting to the end like Russell is, and Hamilton is so far, but yeah, Gasly hit the wall and has checked out his car. I couldn't see anything wrong with his car when it came back in. The mechanics have checked it out at Alpine, all is well. Gasly's rejoined the track now.
Yeah, we can see where Leclerc had to abandon turn 7. He never really made the first part of that and put him wide.
Yeah, the oversteer through the corner. He did well to stay within track limits, to be fair. Both McLarens out on the track. This is Oscar Piastri making his way left-handed at turn 12 to Oh, admire the view, relax at round about 220 miles an hour if you can as you head down the strip.
He'll be on fresh tyres now, so hopefully, because we saw him with a lot of wheel spin on the exit, the corners on that first effort, so this should, a little bit of extra mechanical grip from the tyre should help him.
George Russell at turn 5. Did he just skim the wall? Yes, he did.
Yeah, I hit the wall exit of 5.
He was sliding his way towards the concrete, and he's banged it quite hard there. The man who's currently sat on provisional pole and still in the garage with 3 minutes to go here as they check that car out.
They're very sturdy. I mean, I don't know what his tracking will be like, but they're very sturdy, the cars these days, because in wheel-to-wheel combat, you don't want to bump and then you're out of the race, as we used to have.
I wonder if that's a bit of a concern for George Russell, because as the time ticks down, he might be losing the ability to do an extra preparation lap should he need it. And he's Max Verstappen also in the garage in his Red Bull. Oscar Piastri, if he turned to the left and could see it, would see his face all over the outside of the sphere. Look at that, previous pole, Charles Leclerc, Alain Prost, Carlos Reutemann, and it's not often you see those three drivers in a list together with previous pole positions. Here comes George Russell, with just over 2 minutes to go then. He'll be the last driver to head out onto the track.
One flying lap then, isn't it? So it's get on with it on the out lap and see what you've got on the first hot lap. Let's say, again, the brand new tyres should come to him a little bit earlier.
As I say, 2 pole positions for George Russell in 2024, and he was 3rd on the grid here last year. He finds himself on provisional pole by a couple of tenths of a second. His teammate Lewis Hamilton currently down in 10th. Could Mercedes make it a 1-2 and celebrate a fabulous qualifying here, a 1-2 on the grid, as they managed, of course, at Silverstone the last time they took pole position. Can McLaren fight back and show their pace? Can Ferrari claim a 1-2 in qualifying for the 2nd successive year here? And where can Max Verstappen put that Red Bull? They surely are the contenders then for pole here as we approach the last minute of Q3.
All 10 cars out on the racetrack as expected for this final effort, and Piastri really leading the way of those trying to get their best lap in of the event, and the traction sounded really good there, really good for Piastri.
Finds himself with a 26-1, a couple of tenths down though through the first sector. He's only out qualified Lando Norris once, has Oscar Piastri in the last 13 races. That was at Azerbaijan. A similar street circuit in terms of the length of the long straight. Charles Leclerc down Martin by nearly 4 tenths through the first sector, and
that's a horrible first sector for Leclerc.
Hulkenberg, same time through the first sector as Charles Leclerc. Piastri a 31-1, so he's about 3 tenths down. 31-1 in the middle part of the lap. He's 3 tenths down with a lot to make up here on George Russell. Lando Norris matches him. Both McLarens about 3 tenths down on the man currently sat on provisional pole. Who's finding pace in the middle sector? Charles Leclerc with a 30.8. He's brought himself right back into contention for this pole position. Checker flag flies. Oscar Piastri currently racing towards it. His final flying lap. Where does the young Australian put himself on the grid? Currently provisional P3.
Russell has been mighty fast in the first sector on this current lap. He's currently fastest too, as you can see.
Lando Norris goes onto the front row with the fastest final sector, and a very fine lap from him. Here comes Charles Leclerc, provisional pole for Charles Leclerc. Could he be on pole for the 2nd year running here as Nico Hulkenberg goes 6th fastest? Now Lewis Hamilton. This is the lap that will count for him, and it's only 10th fastest for Lewis Hamilton as Carlos Sainz goes on to provisional pole. Pierre Gasly, as the track ramps up, puts his Alpine on the front row. Yuki Tsunoda goes 6th fastest, and it's between Verstappen and Russell to try and deny Sainz here. Here comes Verstappen round the final corner, 2nd row for the Red Bull. Where's George Russell? He is approaching at 200 miles an hour, the final corner and goes on to pole position. George Russell has done it for Mercedes to take pole here in Vegas, and he's done it by less than 1/10 of a second.
That was a tremendous lap. He's been fastest all the way through, and it was Sainz that's joined him on the front row. What a performance again from Pierre Gasly, just 3/10 of pole position. That will have shocked Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris and Piastri. Tsunoda splits the McLarens as well in 7th place.
Zubabar,
fascinating
pole position, mate. Well done.
Zubabar, that's a new one. Come on. Nice one.
Brilliant job, well done, man.
And Lewis will be seething with himself. He must have run wide, because even though it was a steady time, that was deleted as well. So he hasn't got a representative time. He starts 10th with his teammate on pole position. But Ferrari were there at the end, but Gasly separates the two Ferraris. Extraordinary.
We've been discussing it all day. If you can find the temperature in your tyres, if you can get them into the working window, if you can get your brakes up to temperature, then anything is possible. And that's what happened to Pierre Gasly, who goes one better than he managed here in qualifying last year. Carlos Sainz finished P2 last year in qualifying here. This time he'll keep it. He hasn't got that 10th place penalty. And this is Lewis Hamilton's struggles.
Oh. Yeah. He was all 4 wheels off, but got a massive swapper on in the middle of the corner. And there's no doubt about that being all 4 wheels off. So that was in turn 4. Yeah, that's cost Lewis Hamilton dearly.
And in terms of the championship battle, Lando Norris will start behind Max Verstappen. Once again in qualifying, Verstappen gave it his all and produced a lap that was good enough for the top 5. Produced a lap that probably he wasn't expecting in terms of the handling of the car so far this weekend. And crucially for him was a lap that was faster than Lando Norris, who needs to outscore Max Verstappen to carry on the title fights in tomorrow's race. Verstappen, for the 2nd year running, could take the title on a Saturday night at the racetrack.
So both McLarens stalled out. They did a 33.0 in Q2 and a 33.0, the pair of them, in Q3. They just didn't have anything left after that. George Russell found 4/10 of a second with a cracking pole position lap there. Good effort.
Yeah, hit the wall, left it until last to come out. I'm not saying hitting the wall was part of his strategy to get him out last and be right at the back, but that's where he wanted to be.
Yeah, he was right, wasn't he?
Yeah, on that final flying lap of the 10 drivers going for pole. Right place, right time, and for George Russell, P1 and pole position is, for the 4th time in his career, is definitely the right place for him. And for Pierre Gasly, that is a super lap for him in the Alpine. Not sure he'd have been 3rd on the grid on most people's bingo cards.
Well, we've talked about him being 4th in Q2.
Yeah.
He was right up there, wasn't he?
But going into this qualifying session...
Absolutely,
you know?
absolutely right, yeah.
It's George Russell on the display panels on top of the roof of the pit building here, looking up to the heavens rather than down on everyone else. But when he slots onto the grid tomorrow, he'll be right at the front and everyone else behind him.
So now we need to find out who's got a race car who can keep the medium tyres and hard compound tyres from graining, which is a whole different story tomorrow.
Well, as Ted said, Ferrari really fancy their chances for the race. They think they've got a fabulous race pace here, and they line up 2nd and 4th on the grid. Lando Norris needs to do something to beat Max Verstappen and keep the title race alive. Oscar Piastri didn't have the pace either to trouble the front 2 rows. Yuki Tsunoda lines up 7th in his RB. Nico Hülkenberg at 9th for Haas in his 10th Q3 appearance of the season.
I don't think Red Bull and Verstappen will be too unhappy with 5th. Actually, they've been struggling around here.
In the Constructors' Championship. I don't know if you caught all that. We were expected to be quick in Qatar, but this weekend, no. Makes no sense, says George Russell, which kind of echoes the comments that I was being told at Mercedes that, you know, I said, why are you so quick this weekend? We don't know. We just don't know. But that's the thing about this car, Martin. It's a temperamental beast, isn't it? You get it in the right working window, it's a race-winning car. George said this at the press conference.
Yeah, it's worrying. They don't know why it's quick. They don't know why it's slow sometimes. But tonight, it doesn't matter for George Russell and Mercedes-Benz. And you have to say, Mercedes on the front row or on pole has been a... What is that? Smoking away down there. Has been... looked like a dead cert, didn't it? In fact, both of them, perhaps, we expected up there.
Now, in the Constructors' Championship for Ferrari, this has been a very fine qualifying 2nd and 4th, with McLaren 6th and 8th on the grid. 49 points separate McLaren and Red Bull. 36 points separate McLaren and Ferrari. It's been a good qualifying night for them tonight.
George Russell, your pole sitter for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, 4th of your career, 3rd of the season. Tell me, coming into this weekend, did you and the Mercedes team think you guys were going to have that kind of pace?
Honestly, absolutely not. It feels incredible to be back on pole. We've been so quick all weekend, and I just knew coming into that last Q3 lap, that's going to be the one that counts. It doesn't matter what's happened before then. And you know, I had a bit of a moment on my first run. We had to change the front wing, so there's a moment I thought we weren't going to make the flag, but just so happy. And you know, we've got to do some deep diving to understand why it's been so quick so far this weekend, because it was a real surprise.
Yeah, all the track and then some on that first run, but you got it done on the second. You've got this reputation now for kind of making some calls from inside the cockpit. You said over the radio you wanted to be the last car on the racetrack. Big risk at a street circuit with the track improving, yellow flags possible, red flags possible, but how confident were you were going to have what it took?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately you got to put on the table sometimes, and I felt confident in myself. I knew if I did a clean lap, it would be enough to secure, you know, a front row. So to get pole position, it's incredible. But ultimately, you know, we've had a few good qualifyings recently. We need to convert that into a win now.
Okay, real just quick. Back in Las Vegas, what's it like being back here racing down the famous strip?
Yeah, it's great always being in Las Vegas. It's, you know, late night, good atmosphere here, and excited for the race now.
All right, congratulations. Pole position, George Russell. Alongside him, Carlos Sainz, congratulations. Big cheer from the crowd here in Vegas. You were second in qualifying last year. You had to take that penalty, but you guys got it done today. A lot of talk about tire temps. It is so cold here. How difficult was it to get those tires into the right operating window for that fast lap?
Yeah, very tricky. Well, thanks for the cheers. That was a tough, tight quali. A bit closer to pole than what I was expecting. Actually, I thought I had pole, and then George came very, very quick there at the end. But yeah, very happy. I think we're starting in a good position for tomorrow. P2 last year, but was P12 on the grid because of the famous drain cover. This year I start P2, so hopefully we can make a better one.
Look, at practice, qualifying pace, one lap pace was very close. Race pace, you guys looked very, very strong. How much confidence does that give you that you can convert this into another win on the season?
Yeah, that's why we need to stay confident that tomorrow we could be fighting at the front even more than today. So if today we were closing quali, tomorrow we might have a chance at going for the win. And that will be the target. Obviously, passing and strategy will be a different thing tomorrow. I feel like today, Mercedes were very good at switching those tires on. If you see sector 1, they were flying, they were 3 tenths up on us, and then we were coming back as the lap was going on. But tomorrow it's a clean sheet, new start, and see how the cars behave in high fuel.
And finally, just from the Constructors' Championship standpoint, big opportunity for Ferrari tomorrow. How much is your mindset going into the race? Carlos wants a win versus Ferrari needs as many points as they can to catch McLaren.
I honestly think we need wins also to beat McLaren. It's not like we can afford to just be in front of them because they have a big gap in the championship. And then we're going to Qatar, that it's not going to be a good track for us, and we're going to be struggling there. So, yeah, I think we need to win, so it's not like it changes much my approach.
Perfect. All right, congratulations. Front row star for Carlos Sainz. And Pierre Gasly will line up third on the grid tomorrow. Incredible run. This team's really been on a great run of performance since Austin. You backed it up with an incredible podium position last time out in Brazil. Just talk to me about the emotion of getting a qualifying like this in.
Yeah, it's the first time ever. So no, it's unbelievable. Honestly, we didn't think we'll be able to achieve a top 3 in the quali. So no, it was an incredible lap, especially around this track. You're flirting with the walls everywhere through the lap, and a lot of adrenaline, a lot of excitement. I knew crossing the line it was a good lap, but when they came up on the radio telling me we're lining up third tomorrow, it's just amazing. So really happy.
I mean, times are so tight here. So let's just talk a little bit about how tricky it is specifically here. Cold temperatures, dirty racetrack, low downforce configurations, and walls everywhere. In qualifying for the ultimate lap, how tricky is it here?
Yeah, I mean, I was getting cold in the cab. We had to wait so long before that Q3. I just wanted to get going, and yeah, we had a good first run. That last lap was the one that mattered, with a new tire, and yeah, really managed to nail it. So the car felt great. I must say it's an incredible period for the team following the double podium in Brazil. So hopefully we can stay up there tomorrow.
Third last time out in Brazil, starting third tomorrow. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Where am I going? Pleasure. Congrats, guys. Solid as always. Carlos. Pleasure.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, thank you. A little Italian, but it still helps.
Yes, good morning, everyone. One hour of food coming
Let's go, baby! Love that!
Well done, mate.